Hi, I'm going to give just another minute as folks continue to join. We'll get started in just a moment. All right, looks like the queue's pretty clear. You're all here. Hi, everyone. I'm Todd Mosetter. I'm an executive coach with Building Champions. And whether it's morning, afternoon, or night, wherever you are, thanks for joining me. And I'm glad that you're here. Our time today is short. It's about 15 minutes, but it can be powerful if you lean in. We're going to talk about conflict, not as something to fear or avoid, something scary or bad, but as something that can help your team if you learn to embrace it and handle it in a healthy way. Because how you show up in conflict is one of the clearest reflections of your self leadership. And at Building Champions, we believe self leadership always precedes team leadership. Better humans really do make better leaders. And most of us, we don't get formal training in conflict, but man, do we experience it. And we pick up our habits from family, bosses, or pure survival. And some of those habits serve us, some of them don't. And today, I want to give you three beliefs that will shape how you experience conflict and three behaviors that flow from those beliefs. And in the end, you'll have a simple, memorable framework you can take into your next hard conversation. And if you want to support applying it to real situations in your world, I'll share how individual coaching can help. So we're going to start by diving in to the three beliefs about conflict. Because if you don't examine your beliefs, your behavior will default to old patterns, especially when emotions run high. So we begin under the surface. Number one, conflict is normal and needed. Conflict, it's not proof that something is broken in you, your team, or your relationships. It's proof that human beings with different experiences, needs, and perspectives are working together. And it's often the very thing that helps teams grow. When you see conflict as abnormal, you might feel shame when it happens. You might try to hide or minimize it. And you're going to avoid conversations that could actually move things forward. But when you see conflict as normal and needed, well, then you expect it. You even invite it when it serves the work and the team. You fight the urge to take it personally, even if it can feel that way in the moment. And you start using it to clarify expectations, surface assumptions, and build trust. This shift lowers the emotional temperature and helps you show up as a leader who isn't scared of tension, but instead as a leader who knows how to embrace it and use it. Big belief number two. This one's huge. You don't have to win. As somebody who is super competitive, this one resonates with me. Many leaders, they approach conflict with a quiet internal scorecard. Someone is right and someone is wrong, and the goal, consciously or not, is to come out on top. That win-lose mindset shows up in subtle ways: interrupting, defending, making your point louder or longer, needing the final word. But in most work and life conflicts, the relationship and the results matter more than winning the argument. But in the moment, that doesn't stop us from going out of our way to do it. When you believe that you have to win, you give that up, well, then you're free to be curious instead of defensive. You can admit when the other person has a good point, not just fight to defend your own. And you can adjust your position without feeling like you've lost your value or your authority. You stop asking, how do I come out ahead? And start asking, what outcome serves us best? Something I remind my clients of all the time. In times of conflict, if one person wins and the other person feels like they've lost, well, then nobody truly wins. Number three, all perspectives are valid. Now, valid doesn't mean every perspective is fully accurate or complete. It means from where each person stands, their experience makes sense to them. If you dismiss it or minimize someone else's perspective, especially as the leader, well, they're going to start sharing less. They're going to trust you less. And they're going to become more guarded or resistant. Your goal shouldn't be to accept or agree, but to understand. Understand, what do they see, feel, and think? When you genuinely believe that all perspectives are valid, Well, then you treat each viewpoint as a piece of the bigger picture. You know that what they are seeing or experiences is something you need to fully understand the situation. You see conflict as a way to see more of reality, not less. It broadens your perspective, not just reinforcing the one you already have. And you create psychological safety for people to bring up tension early instead of letting it fester. This is where concepts like intentional curiosity really come to life. You start from a help me understand how this looks to you instead of starting from a position of let me explain why I'm right. Now, beliefs are the foundation, but they become powerful when they're expressed through our behaviors, how we show up, how we act, especially when the stakes are high. We're going to walk through 3 behaviors that flow directly from the beliefs we just talked about. We're going to talk about how you can engage directly with empathy and courage, how you can learn to compromise in a healthy way, and how you can practice active listening. So let's walk through each one. If you generally believe conflict is normal and needed, then you stop avoiding it and you start engaging it directly and in a healthy way. What does that mean? Well, you're going to address issues with the person involved instead of vetting to others. You lean into conversations before frustration hardens into resentment. And you don't wait for the perfect time that never comes. You choose a respectful time and step in. But engaging directly isn't the whole story. You also need empathy and courage. Empathy means you're willing to acknowledge that the other person has a real experience, real feelings, and real reasons for seeing things the way they do, especially if you disagree with them. And courage means you're willing to say what needs to be said, clearly and respectfully, even when it's uncomfortable. When you combine both of these, empathy and courage, together, well, then you can tell the truth without using it as a weapon. You care about the person and the relationship while still addressing the issue. And you model for your team that hard things can be talked about directly and respectfully. So ask yourself, where do I need to stop circling around a conflict and actually engage? And do it with both empathy and courage. Number 2, compromise. If you truly accept that you don't have to win, you become capable of compromise in a healthy way. Now, compromise often gets a bad reputation, especially if people think it means folding or abandoning what really matters. In other words, both of you give up and none of you are happy. That's not what we're talking about. Healthy compromise looks like clarifying what matters most to you. What are your non-negotiable? You're going to major in the majors and minor in the minors. What's actually worth pressing in and fighting for? That gives you the opportunity to recognize where you have room to flex, the things that you can give a little bit on, the things that may be a matter of preference, not pure priority. And you can be willing to share the load, the credit, the resources, or the adjustments. You're not just fighting for all of the spotlight. In practice, this might involve adjusting timelines so that both quality and capacity are honored. Sharing responsibility for a decision instead of pushing it onto one person or one team. It could be combining elements of 2 different ideas into a third option that serves even the bigger goal better than the original ones did. Compromise is easier when everyone is anchored in a shared purpose. When everyone is clear on what success looks like for the organization, the team, or the relationship, it becomes much easier to release the need to personally win and focus on what moves you forward together. So a helpful question that you might want to carry into conflict is, what am I willing to hold loosely here? And what truly needs to stay true and firm? That mindset sets you up for genuine compromise instead of just unspoken scorekeeping. And then finally, number 3, you have to practice active listening. If you believe all perspectives are valid, then your listening changes. Too often in conflict, it's basically like 2 people are talking at each other and nobody is truly listening. Active listening is more than just being quiet while the other person talks. It's giving your full intention instead of mentally preparing for your response, waiting for your opening to counterattack. It's looking for the meaning beyond the words, the fears, hopes, and needs driving the position. And you reflect back what you heard to confirm you understood correctly. You're not just parroting, you're paraphrasing. The research shows that when you restate it in your own words, you actually demonstrate to the other person, not just that you heard them, but that you truly understand them. And in times of conflict, that's a big one. And you pause and you ask clarifying questions instead of just jumping straight to explanation, defense, or resolution. Sometimes in conflict, you have to hold the tension. That means listening, being curious, and pressing in. When you practice this active listening in conflict, well, it means the other person feels seen and respected, even if you didn't agree with them. The emotions will often de-escalate because people felt heard rather than firing them up even more. And you gain better data, insight, which can lead to better decisions. And most importantly, you have to remember that active listening doesn't mean you never share your own view. It means you earn the right to be heard because you first sought to be understood, to help the other person be understood. No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care, which means you have to make sure you understand what they're sharing. As a leader, this behavior is incredibly powerful. Over time, it builds a culture where people speak up earlier, concerns surface before they turn into crises or chaos, and you as the leader, you're trusted not just for your decisions, but for how you handle disagreement. So let's pull this all together so it sticks. That belief number one, it's conflict is normal and can even be healthy. You don't have to win, and all perspectives are valid. Well, that means it flows out of you that you're going to engage directly with empathy and courage. You're going to be willing to compromise, and you're going to practice active listening. If you hold the old beliefs that conflict is bad, you have to win, and only my perspective is valid, then even the best conflict tips won't stick. You'll revert to old behaviors and ways of doing things, especially under pressure. But when you adopt these new beliefs and pair them with these behaviors, a few things start to happen. You can feel less dread when conflict shows up. Conversations that used to derail you become opportunities to build trust and clarity, and your team sees a different kind of leadership, one that is both strong and deeply human. So some reflection questions. If you want to maybe take some assessment of where you're at with conflict right now and what you might be able to do as a leader to improve, here are a few questions that you can take with you after the webinar. I'd encourage you to write these down in your journal and set some time aside to really press into them. Number one, where am I currently avoiding a conflict that I need to engage in? Knowing when and how to press in is key. Because if there's an issue or a broken relationship or something that needs said on your team or with someone in your life or leadership, the other person knows it. So have the courage to step into it. In your last conflict, did you show up like you had to win, or did you create space for compromise? Sometimes getting it right is more important than being right. So reflect back on your last few conflict interactions, and were you more important with being right or more important when getting it right, which means equally valuing the person and the relationship, not just the outcome. And when someone would describe your conflict, how you engage in it, your conflict style, would the other person say that you listen actively and take their perspective seriously? And if not, what do you need to do to change moving forward? Conflict isn't about winning and losing. In most instances, it's about getting the best ideas and creating an environment where your team speaks up. That means the other person needs to feel valued and heard. These questions, they move it from theory to self-leadership. This is that inner work that'll actually transform how you lead others. So remember, conflict is normal and needed. You don't have to win. Every perspective is valid. And when you choose to engage directly with empathy and courage, be willing to compromise and practice active listening, you not only resolve conflict more effectively, you build stronger relationships, better teams, and more sustainable results. If you're listening to this and thinking, this all makes sense, but in the real world, it's messy, emotional, and I'd love some help walking through it. Well, that's where coaching can come in. As an executive coach, I work with leaders who are navigating ongoing conflict with a peer, boss, or team member. It pops up in every relationship. Sometimes they're carrying unresolved tension that's draining energy and focus, and they just want to create a healthier culture. but they're not sure where to start or how to model new patterns. In coaching, we don't stay theoretical. We dig in with you and look at your specific conflicts that you're either navigating or you're avoiding. We identify those beliefs that are driving your reactions, and we help you find new ways that you can engage, ones that are rooted in empathy, courage, and active listening, all designed to help you be a better human and a better leader. So if you'd like to explore individual coaching, either with me or one of our Building Champions coaches, we'd love to talk with you about your goals and see how we might be able to help. It's what we do. So scan the QR codes on the screen to learn more about our coaching programs, or feel free to schedule a call. We'd love to connect with you. Thanks again for taking time out to join me. And I hope as a result of this, you're able to engage in healthier conflict, both for you and your teams.